Hello everyone, I'm Sangeetha Panicker. I live in Thiruvananthapuram. The movie I'm going to talk about is an all-time favorite of mine. It is a biographical drama set in the 1980s in San Francisco. This inspiring and meaningful story that will definitely touch us with its honesty is titled The Pursuit of Happiness. The film is a tad different, right from the word happiness in the title, which is misspelled as Happyness for a reason. Or the story, which is about a struggling single father, not a very commonly portrayed theme. This was also inspired by the life of the true Chris Gardner, a stockbroker turned the founder of the brokerage firm Gardner Rich and Company. He published a memoir which was later made into a motion picture which traced the ups and frightening downs of his life. Chris Gardner faces many hardships as he and his son are evicted from the apartment when he loses his life's earnings selling a product he invested in. When his wife leaves him, he is left with the custody of his son. The father and son are forced to sleep on the streets and even behind the locked doors of a metro station restroom, which is one of the most heart-wrenching scenes in the movie. Chris rises above the obstacles to become a Wall Street legend. The movie is more than a rags to riches story and portrays the hopes, sacrifices, pressure, love and happiness of an ordinary man who juggles different roles while focusing on his constitutional right to pursue happiness, and hence the title. Interestingly, the father and son roles are played by Will Smith and his real son, Jaden Smith, for whom this was a debut movie. Their strong relationship is poignantly portrayed in some very touching scenes, like the one in which Christopher Jr. tells his father that he was a good papa as they spend the night in a homeless shelter. Their off-screen relationship probably explains, other than the great acting, of course, the real and intense emotions that pulsate every interaction between them. Jaden Smith is adorable and delivers an enduring performance. The movie also has its share of lighter moments, and one is going to laugh and cry with the characters. If you want something, go get it, period, is an oft quoted, inspiring line which underlines the feelings of resolve and perseverance which is found in abundance throughout the movie. The movie was released in 2006 and was directed by Gabriel Muccino. I would definitely say that this is a must-watch movie and it would really make you feel good. Thank you.
Dear friends, I am Jiju Nair, and today let's talk about a movie that became a cult classic for youngsters in India in the 1980s. That fun movie was Jaane Bhi Do Yaaro. This movie captured the frustration of average Indian youth against system that gave them limited growth opportunities, while politicians and big businesses formed a nexus to rob the nation. Ironically, this movie was produced by National Film Development Corporation while criticizing the role of business people in politics. The movie was directed by Kundan Shah and featured a star cast with names like Naseeruddin Shah, Neena Gupta, Satish Shah, and Om Puri. This comedy film captures the adventures of two aspiring young photographers who opens a studio and finds themselves struggling for business. Through a series of hilarious incidents, they accidentally photographs the murder of a police commissioner by a powerful businessman. The remaining part of the movie is a series of slapstick comedy where they try to expose the murderer. As a final twist, even though the honest photographers were successful in framing the criminal, they themselves go to jail because of the evil alliance between the businessman, journalists, politicians, and the policeman. Yes, this movie truly represented the exasperation of an average Indian citizen during the 1980s. If you are into dark comedy and appreciate idiosyncrasies, this movie is for you. Scenes where two characters talk on land phones all the while remaining in the same room, and a climax scene where a corpse is paraded as Draupadi in a drama stage needs special senses to appreciate well. The film initially did not make much money in the box office, but eventually went on to win the Indira Gandhi and Filmfare Awards. It is said that the actors had to pay out of their pockets to watch their own movie. But if you have never watched this cult movie, this is the right time to do it. You will definitely thank yourself for not missing a cult Indian movie.
Hi friends, I am Ranjana. I live in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Today I am going to talk about a Tamil movie, Mounaragam, directed by Maniratnam. This was released 35 years ago, which means we were in our sweet 16. But truth be told, I had heard a lot about this movie when it was released, but by the time I had the fortune of watching it, I must have been 20, as it was only then that it got aired on the Doordarshan. I guess 16 to 20 is a window for girls when they unknowingly examine, mold, redefine the relationships or the mode of the relationships with the opposite gender. In this respect, Mounaragam was a movie a little ahead of its times, which unknowingly helped me and the likes of me set our expectations in terms of relationships with boys to be evolved to men. In this movie, Divya, played by Revati, is a child woman who is quite exuberant and vivacious. She is coerced into a marriage as the alliance works well in all respects for her middle class family, which cannot afford a dowry. Her refusal to accede turns to a yes when she is emotionally blackmailed into one. The utter hypocrisy or the lack of logic in refusing your girl to step out even with your girlfriends only to push her to start living with a stranger one day is portrayed so well. It is here that Chandrakumar, played by Mohan, wins the heart of many. A very modern husband for his times. To my mind, he is Sir Gawain from the King Arthur story, who totally believes that the best way to win a woman's heart is to allow her to make the choices herself. He patiently understands her reasons to lack of commitment in this relationship. Manoharan, played by Karthik, who transforms from an activist to an ordinary man for his love interest, that is Revati's sake, tragically gets killed on the day they are supposed to get married, and this shatters her. From this point onwards, Chandrakumar wants to do everything to make her happy with her choices. So, as per her request, they file for a divorce with mutual consent. Chandrakumar's gentlemanly nature letting her make her choices with minimal conversations and turn of events where she eats her own rude words completes the circle of Mounaragam. Divya falling once again in love with a man who gave her the freedom and the responsibility to make her choices. I believe that friendship is the mother of all relationships in this world, especially in a marriage where the stakes are much higher. They have summed up this very well in a song which comes, the lines going like, நண்பர்கள் போல வாழறதுக்கு மாலையும் மேலும் தேவை என்ன, meaning to live like friends, do you need some background music or garlands and all that. Mounaragam is totally captures the heart of its audience with the lilting music of Ilayaraja and brilliant cinematography by P.C. Sriram. It's a wonderful watch. If you have not watched it, please do. Thanks.
Hi everyone, this is Jayasree Mahesh from Chennai. The 1994 film, The Shawshank Redemption, written and directed by Frank Darabont, based on Stephen King's novella Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption, is about the triumph of human spirit. It's the story of a banker, Andy Dufresne, played by Tim Robbins, who, despite his claim for innocence, is sentenced to 2 consecutive life terms in Shawshank State Prison for the murder of his wife and her lover. The story revolves around his life in prison for the next 2 decades, his friendship with fellow prisoner Ellis Boyd Redding, commonly called Red, played by Morgan Freeman, and how he becomes instrumental in a money laundering operation led by the prison warden Samuel Norton, played by Bob Gunton, and eventually brings it out in the open. All through the film, there is something hidden or secret happening in the background, which is revealed only towards the end as a big surprise. The simple and eloquent depiction of hope and friendship and redemption is very moving. The way Andy holds on to hope is depicted well. He tells Red, "In here is where you need it most. You need it so you don't forget. Forget that there are places in the world that aren't made of stone, that there is something inside that is yours, something that they can't touch." Red answers him that in here it's a simple choice, get busy living or get busy dying. But eventually, Red, who has been in prison for long and lost hope, learns that without our hopes and dreams, we are nothing. As Red says about the prison walls, first you hate them, then you get used to them, and then can't live without them. He calls this getting institutionalized. The character Brooks, a great performance by James Whitmore, is an example for this. Even though he gets his freedom, Brooks is unable to adjust in the outside world and commits suicide. The climax of the movie is the escape of Andy from prison. Andy's prison wall is always adorned by a picture of a film actress. First it was Rita Hayworth, then Marilyn Monroe, and finally Raquel Welch. After his escape, when they were searching his room, the warden throws a rock at the poster of Raquel in his anger and accidentally finds the hole through which Andy escaped. Andy, through his perseverance, defeats both the literal villain Warden Norton and the metaphorical villain institutionalization. As Red says, some birds aren't meant to be caged, their feathers are just too bright. Even though Andy is the protagonist of the movie, according to me it's actually Red's story. The person who is redeemed is Red. He regrets for the crime he committed in his youth and comes to terms with his life. With Andy's help, he is able to overcome his feeling of institutionalization and, unlike Brooks, able to go towards freedom. Though the film received positive reviews for the story and performances by Robbins and Freeman, it was a box office disappointment. It was only after the film received 7 Academy Award nominations that it started getting viewership. It is still popular in many countries. The never give up attitude of the main character is conveyed well by Tim Robbins. The ending of the movie is really exciting. I would recommend this movie as a must watch for every movie buff. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Biju Parameswaran. I live in Thiruvananthapuram. Satyajit Ray, who was born in Calcutta in 1921 and passed away in 1992, was one of the greatest filmmakers that India has produced. Equally accomplished as a writer, artist, publisher, critic, calligrapher and designer, Ray pioneered the New Wave movement in film in the country with Pathar Panchali, or The Song of the Little Road, in 1955. He was inspired by watching the French director Jean Renoir shooting for his film The River in Calcutta. Ray's films are realistic. They are free of the vulgarity, melodrama, and predictable formulae which had long been the bane of popular cinema in India. My own favorite among his works is the 1969 Bengali film Aranyer Din Ratri, or Days and Nights in the Forest. This 2-hour-long black and white film is adapted from the novel by the reputed poet and writer Sunil Gangopadhyay. It stars Soumitra Chatterjee, who came to don the lead part in most Rai films. Apart from him, Robbie Ghosh, Shamit Bancha and Shubhendu Chatterjee also have important parts. The leading females in the cast are Sharmila Tagore, Simi Garewal and Aparna Sen. A group of young men from the city set out for an escapade to a village. They are quite unlike each other but bond well among themselves. Educated and from different social strata, one finds his professional success pointless. Another is tired of hiding his middle-class timidity behind Marxist rhetoric. One is jilted by his sophisticated girlfriend, and another has nothing important to do as the horse racing season is some time away. At the village, they encounter the tribal girl, played by Simi Garewal, and 2 ladies, played by Sharma Tagore and Kaveri Bose. The men and women engage in a memory game where each participant has to add a name to a chain of names of famous people. after repeating all the names in the right sequence. The names each player chooses reflect his or her state of mind. As Rai writes in Speaking of Films, this scene is one of his favorites because there he conveys thoughts and feelings by implication rather than words. At one point in the village, the four friends go their own way, and it's interesting to see what all adventures befall them. Side characters like the Chowkidar of the rest house and his ailing wife add meat to the story. In Aranyer Ratri, Rai explores the vicious new world and its urban bourgeoisie, whose social and moral failings are glaringly brought out into the open. Urban living cuts us from each other and from our true environment and blunts out our moral sense, as Rai's biographer Andrew Robinson points out in the book The Inner Eye. The four friends depart after 3 days feeling different. The film is a predecessor to Rai's Calcutta trilogy, which captured the angst of a generation undergoing one of the most turbulent periods in post-independent Indian history. Thank you.
My name is Deepa, and I currently reside in the US. I am reviewing the movie Sir, directed by Rohena Guerra, starring Tilotama Shom and Vivek Gumber. Sir is a movie originally filmed in 2018 and released late 2020. It's a romantic movie about a wealthy architect named Ashwin who falls in love with his maid, Ratna. The beauty of the movie is that it's a far departure from the usual Bollywood style. No song and dance, just pure realism. We see the daily monotony of housework from the maid's perspective, the loneliness of her job, and how she always manages to maintain a distance between herself and her employer's life, at least at first anyway. We see the sadness that she has experienced in her life, yet Ratna is able to carry on with such a positive outlook. As the movie begins, Ashwin's relationship is ending, and he is just going through the motions of life without living it. We see how she opens up to him little by little. She shares her life story to encourage him to start living again. In turn, he responds to her and grows to trust her. We get a glimpse into her hopes and dreams, the beauty of her life, even with the societal limitations placed on it in modern-day Mumbai. As the two main characters begin to get to know each other, you see how they grow to care for each other. To me, Sir is an uplifting movie, beautifully written, and the cultural inequalities are shot in such a subtle but powerful way. A truly endearing movie, and highly recommended movie, as it has won awards.
Hello, I am Dr. Titty Jacob Cherian. The movie which I choose to review is The Terminal. The Terminal is a 2004 American comedy drama directed by Steven Spielberg, starring Tom Hanks, Catherine Zeta-Jones, Stanley Tucci. Rating is PG-13 and duration is 128 minutes. The film is partially inspired by the true story of the 18-year stay of Mehran Kasmi Nazeri, an Iranian, in Terminal 1 of Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport, France from 1988 to 2006. So much has and hasn't changed when it comes to immigration. Imaginary country, Krakosia, breaks out into civil war during Victor Navorsky, played by Tom Hanks' flight to United States. United States no longer recognize this war country. What this means for Victor as a traveler is that he can't return home, nor can he enter the United States. A stateless man, Victor decides to make the airplane terminal his home for the next future. US Customs and Border Protection Temporary Director Frank Dixon, played by Stanley Tucci, does what he can and even suggests that Victor breaks the law. Victor, who speaks only a little broken English, does not really understand what has happened to him. With nothing to do but to wait and find out his fate, Victor decides to make the best of a bad situation. Dixon cannot believe how easily Victor adapts to this situation. Enrique, played by Diego Luna, a food service worker, calls upon Victor to serve as his intermediary in expressing his love for Dolores, played by Zoe Saldana, an immigration officer. Victor sees her regularly in a vain attempt to have his paperwork stamped approved to enter the United States. Instead of blowing his stack as most people would do, he patiently handles the rebuff and establishes a pleasant relationship with the attractive young woman. Gupta, played by Kumar Pallana, an elderly janitor from India, thinks that Victor is a spy or CA agent and doesn't trust him. But Victor wins them with his pleasant approach. All of Victor's friends and observers are intrigued by the mysterious tin of Planters peanuts that he carries along with him and treats like a holy object. But Victor only reveals its secret to Amelia Warren, played by Catherine Zeta-Jones, a flight attendant who is in an on-again, off-again affair with Max, played by Mitchell Nuri, a handsome married man who regularly meets her in the transit lodge. To Dixon, Victor is a bureaucratic embarrassment, something he doesn't need to have around when he is being considered for an important promotion. He tries several times to get Victor out of the place, including leaving the main door unguarded so he will leave and come under somebody else's jurisdiction. The officer, played by the book Rigidity, comes off badly in comparison to Victor's more compassionate approach. By the end of the story, which takes place over a span of 9 months, Victor has made the terminal into a home and his new airport family has come to know and respect him. He has modeled a way of believing that we would do well to emulate, proving that, as the African proverb says, a patient man has all the wealth in the world. After watching some of the behind the scenes, I was amazed as how the crew has built a full-size replica airport in a hangar in Palmdale Airport, LA, and exteriors in Montreal International Airport, Canada. The attention to details by director Steven Spielberg is amazing. The Terminal is a comedy, a drama, and a romance all in one without ever really becoming one for too long. The film has a classic feel that explores humanity and sentiments. A spectacular flick from Spielberg and Hanks, worth watching. Thank you.
I'm Laiju from Trivandrum. Taare Zameen Par is a 2007 Hindi film produced and directed by Aamir Khan. It is the story of an 8-year-old boy, Ishan Awasthi, a dyslexic child, whose world is full of colors, kites, animals, and so on. His poor academic abilities could not cope up with the everyday stress of classroom learning, homeworks, and test papers. The teacher, who is not aware of his condition, calls his handwriting dancing letters, which actually is a trait seen in dyslexic children. The teacher throws his books and even belittles him in front of his classmates. Such events in turn creates a stressful atmosphere at home, where parents themselves are caught in a monotonous lifestyle. His father, Nandakishore Awasthi, is a successful executive who expects his children to excel, and his mother, Maya, is frustrated by her limitations in educating Ishan. Ishan's elder brother is an exemplary student and an achiever, even in sports. This film also explores the present age where everyone is caught in a restless hurry to achieve God knows what. The father is unable to realize, understand, or acknowledge that his son needs special care, but instead decides to put him in a boarding school. This was the purest form of escapism which many people do in their lives. The heartbreaking song Ma, when the parents leave after placing him in the boarding school, was so moving that it brought almost everyone to tears. I am still unable to go beyond that song when I see the movie. Luckily, Ishan gets an arts teacher, Ram Shankar Nikumb. Soon this teacher realizes that Ishan has a problem. He makes an effort to understand the situation, goes and meets Ishan's parents and tells them that their son is a special child. There is this part where he tells the story of a village where they kill a tree by standing in a circle around the tree and cursing it every day, and eventually the tree dies. This is a powerful message which emphasizes the power of being positive to our fellow beings. The power of appreciation means a lot to our children. The teacher attempts to improve Ishan's reading and writing skills by using remedial techniques developed by dyslexia specialists. That is, jumping up and down the steps while counting, drawing on the sand, and so on. Eventually, Ishan begins to show improvement. At the end of the year, Nikum organizes an arts and craft contest for the staff as well as the students. Ishan becomes the winner. Ishan's parents are left speechless by the transformation seen in him, and they thank the teacher. The movie has raised awareness of the issue of dyslexia and have prompted more open discussions among parents, schools, activists and policymakers. It even influenced the CBSE Board of India to give extra time for exams for children with special needs. It gave rise to teacher training programs to handle such students. It has truly helped parents undergoing similar situations in life to take a more proactive approach. This film made many fathers weep and realize that they have been wrong in the way they treated their children. Many parents embraced counseling sessions to help themselves and their children. The film starred Darshil Safri, Tiska Chopra, Vipin Sharma, Shashi Engineer, and Amir Khan in the leading roles. The film has 4 beautiful songs, my favorite being Ma, sung by Shankar Mahadev. Music was by Shankar Ehsan Loy Group and lyrics by Prashant Joshi. Taare Zameen Par received many awards, out of which the most important ones were the Filmfare Award for Best Film in 2008, National Filmfare Award on Family Welfare in 2008, and it was India's official entry in 2009 for the Academy Awards for Best Foreign Film category. A film full of substance, and Amir Khan a perfect actor who proved to be a perfect director. The movie leaves me speechless always, and it will always stay close to my heart. Thank you.